Hello and welcome to this video on grafting fruiting branches onto ornamental fruit trees. In short, this video is undoing the entire point of having an ornamental fruit tree. A tree which by definition is meant to look like a nice, lush, leafy tree, and maybe flower, but never produce fruit. While we don't inherently hate this idea, it also seems rather wasteful. There is a time and place for ornamental or sterile species, especially where they are otherwise invasive or create problems. On the other hand, they are just there because your local government, a builder or homeowners association or other similar group wanted cheap trees. If that latter instance is the case, it is a waste. Fortunately, in some, but not all cases, you can undo this particular aberration. We're not saying you should create the weird monstrosity that is a fruit salad tree, but we're also not saying you can't do that. For this video, we'll be using a stone fruit tree. It is an ornamental cherry tree. The reason for this is rather simple for the most part. The cherry tree is from the same Prunus genus. This is typically the safest level to operate when grafting. The higher up the taxonomic ladder or hierarchy you go, the harder it is to graft, at least successfully. In a roundabout way, think of it like this. A pig is an animal, and we can reasonably use their liver for a time, but you could not use a dolphin's liver because it's a fish. Yes, it's a very broad difference, but it's the same sort of idea. There's just an intrinsic incompatibility the more different species become, and of course when we look at taxonomy, the higher up the hierarchy you go, the more drastic those differences become. In general terms, once you go beyond the family of your graft and either rootstock or scion species, you're likely to encounter trouble. It's generally best to stay within the genus where and when possible. Just be aware that, technically speaking, although we're working primarily with a stone fruit example here, as long as you apply this same general idea or pattern, you can do it with other things as well, for example apples and pears or whatever else you happen to have an interest in. The good news, at least with the Prunus genus, is that we have a lot of compatible species. Cherries are rather obvious, given that we're talking about an ornamental cherry, but you can also graft plums, nectarines, peaches, almonds, apricots, and a few more again. As you can see, the list is long, and we've only gone through the genus, not the species or particular cultivars of each in turn, which means that this list would be extensive beyond all practicality. Procedurally, things are not quite, but still mostly straightforward. It just requires you to repeat the same actions reliably for every graft. Yeah, okay, it's not perfect, but it's not overly difficult to do. However, unfortunately, after that, there is a significant degree of luck involved. First, you need your scion and stock. You can cut one part, your scion, so that it is wedge-shaped, at least in this case. You want something resembling a long or tall and narrow V-shape. And now your stock needs to be cut in the reverse. That is, you want a mostly straight cut across the top or end of the branch. Now split this stock or branch down the middle. It should look a bit like a sheaf of paper or a book that's been opened now. Place your graft into the stock and try to align the cambia, more green living tissue of the scion, and the graft you're making. If the branch is big and the graft is small, you may wish to consider adding 2 grafts to the rootstock or whatever you're trying to put it into, such as a branch in this case. And now begin by wrapping something like raffia, grafting tape, hessian or similar around your graft and rootstock or similar. As long as this site is completely wrapped, preferably from slightly above where you have it to well below where it's finishing. And next, wrap a waterproof material around this. Children's plasticine, putty or similar works well for this purpose. If not, a coat of paint, wax, or even an old plastic bag can do the job. The next stage is where things are partly up to luck. It's also where you can get an early indication of success or failure. The first sign of failure will be the callus and material regrowing near the site of the graft. If it does not appear to be merging, that is, both the graft itself and the stock you're grafting to are getting completely different growth patterns, it's a good indicator that they're compartmentalizing or isolating from each other, and therefore each side of the graft, at least the material that is involved, isn't working together. This will lead to not just the graft failing, but a graft that fails mechanically. That is, the scion will literally fall out of the rootstock, or at least not stay within it with the slightest bit of mechanical force, whether that is a gust of wind or you being slightly careless and knocking it. The next sign is not visible, or at least not visible to the naked eye. It is where the cells of the graft and the rootstock do not play nice together. They need to share a cell wall that will allow the hormones, nutrients, waste, and so on to be transmitted, communicated, and so on very well. Without this, the graft acts out and does its own thing, while the rootstock does another, and oftentimes at completely contradictory approaches or intended targets. You need the cell walls to be butted against each other to allow for that direct communication until the appropriate vascular tissue is formed. And this is the last sign that your graft is going to succeed or fail, and you can to a certain extent observe this externally. When you look at the graft and the callus that is beginning to merge around it, that is the raised tissue, this should be beginning to form a reasonably coherent and, let's say, a solid singular callus. It's playing well together, so to say. Essentially, there is no pressing obvious difference, or at least not to the tree, and certainly not for the human looking at the outside, that differentiates them as two different forms of callus. We can see this on the outside better than the tree can from the inside, but what's important is that what we're seeing on the outside shows that the vascular tissue at this point is all aligned and working together. This helps to make up for the limited capacity of that cell-to-cell communication. For our purposes, we have 4 different kinds of stone fruit that we're going to graft onto the ornamental cherry. These are 2 forms of plum, a peach, and a nectarine. Each has been grafted in 5 different places, so we can get a good solid idea about the success or more likely failure without relying solely on luck or misfortune. Once spring starts, we'll know somewhat how successful we've been with the graft. Either the graft will start to take in the beginning of spring, and that's why we're doing this now, or it's going to show the early signs of failure fairly soon after spring kicks in. And that's the key here. And by doing it at this time of year, the tree has some opportunity to heal and start the various processes required before the graft is really going to put a lot of strain on the tree, and particularly the tree is going to be putting a lot of its effort into various things. For example, flowers and similar. Whereas if we did this in spring itself, the tree would have a lot of different competing interests, and it would be very hard to get a graft going very well. It's not impossible, but our odds of success go down drastically. For now, we'll have to wait and see though, as we won't know until come spring. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it interesting, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. And please do post any comments, questions, or suggestions you have below.